Well, here we are with the FitELITE Strong Podcast number 5. Just so you all know, the purpose of this podcast is here at FitELITE, we like to enhance the lives of people through lifestyle. So a lot of people look at us as just this fitness organization or company, but we like to work the pillars of life, don't we, Core? So whether you call it the pillars of life or the spokes on a wheel, we want to enhance all the different areas in life, lifestyle aspects to not only enhancing your own personal life, but those that are surrounded around you. I am Dave, Coach Dave, and I am here with Coach Corey Jacobson, AKA, he doesn't know I'm going to say this, also known as Big Thick. So for those that are listening, some people will walk through the doors of FitELITE and they'll hear me say, I have nicknames for a lot of people here at FitELITE, but Corey's always been known as Big Thick. So since I've known and met Corey back in 17, 18, this guy came in and he just had ginormous traps and thick back. I came up with the name Big Thick. So there you go. Everybody knows now. He's got that big grin on his face about it. So, all right, Coach Core, what are we talking about today?
Yeah, so it's just me and you today instead of Shane. So we have on the docket sleep. When you talk pillars of health, that is one of the big pillars.
I would 100% agree.
So we're going to dive into that today. I think we'll cover kind of a little bit of the science behind it, the different stages, why it's important and what's happening in those stages and why we stress sleep so much as something that is for one of the pillars of your health. And we'll kind of discuss different strategies for getting better sleep, really just dive into the topic and break it down and try to give you some nuggets to come away with from this podcast.
So before we dive into all that, give me your background on like how sleep has changed for you with all the wisdom that you've obtained through the last 7, probably 8 years of your journey.
Yeah. Well, as a college kid, I probably didn't get very much sleep. There's partying and some drinking going on. So there's late nights, early mornings. I would sleep in. I would sometimes skip class to sleep in. So there's that. It wasn't consistent ever, I would say. I was definitely more of a late night person rather than an early person that I am now. So my sleep has significantly shifted from what it used to be. I used to tell myself I wasn't a morning person, but usually when I wake up, I'm up. So it wasn't that hard of a transition. So I've been more consistent, I'd say, in the past 7 to 8 years than I ever been with like bedtimes and wake times.
Yeah. I would say, and I know obviously a lot of people, but I'd say you've got to be in the top 1% of when it comes to sleep and setting the boundaries for sleep. So I'm similar to you. So like the last 20, 25 years, I mean, I would say pre-COVID, I was the person averaging 5.5 hours of sleep, thinking, that's enough. I just want to make sure I accomplish whatever it is I need to accomplish. And then COVID hit and my journey changed, and we'll kind of talk a little bit about why that changed, when it changed. And yeah, the sidebar, and I don't remember where I read this, so don't quote me on it, but I heard that we're the most sleep deprived nation or country in the world.
We're a lot of hustle culture and get things done and push, which is very detrimental for sleep.
I lived it, so I get it.
Let me ask you this. Why should somebody sleep more?
Oh, man. Knowing that we were coming in to talk about sleep, there's so many rabbit holes you can go down on sleep. For me, and we talk a lot about, our journeys, it's, I think it's foundational for a lot of people to enhance their lives. I tried doing, like I said, for like 20 years of like 5.5 hours of sleep. Yeah, was I able to make it? Yes. Didn't realize the disservice I was doing to myself, on massive things like recovery, cognitive ability, being able to function in my brain. We're going to be talking about like the REM sleep cycles and deep sleep and what that means is, for someone that, you're working with family, business, you got a lot of private training, your coaches, all that. It's one of the major foundational things you need to do to help enhance not only aspects of cognitive, but that physical recovery. It's so unbelievable. And some people are real passive with it.
What do you mean by passive?
It's something I have to just do. It doesn't necessarily mean I have to do it for a very long time, or meaning like time duration or the quality of what I'm doing. I just got to get it done so I can get up and do the next thing, until that all snowballs into a lot of other physiological factors that really are a detriment to your human life. Yeah. So that would be definitely like, there's both cognitive and physical aspects to it that are really going to shoot you in the foot if you don't take care of yourself in that regard.
Yeah, there was a study I recently read where the effects of sleep deprivation, so we're just talking like 4 or 5, maybe 6 hours. 6 is like we're teetering on the edge. But one of the effects is what you just said is cognitive impairment, but you are impaired to a degree that is significant, which is like 30%, 40% of your ability to think, to process, to figure out what you want to say and and how you want to respond and how quickly you can get tasks done. It's an immediate impact. The day you get 5 hours of sleep, you're immediately impacted cognitively. You're not processing as fast. You're not as quick. You're not as sharp. But what happens is if you do multiple days in a row, weeks in a row, your body adapts to it, but your brain doesn't. So you feel like you got enough rest. Like you're 20 years, you're probably like, oh, 5 hours, I'm good.
Yeah. I felt like I adapted to it. And
cognitively, your processing, your speed, and your recall and your ability was significantly suppressed.
Yeah. Like I said, I wasn't even aware of it. And now I know, like when I get up in the morning, I can almost tell, even though I wear a gadget that will help tell me that information, I can tell like if I'm impaired on my REM or my deep sleep cycles. So again, we'll talk about that. Yeah, I agree. Like memory, like recall, I think is a big one. Your emotional processing is one. Just like the creative mind, all that. Problem solving is a big one. All that gets impaired big time.
Significantly. So that's a big reason why we should pay attention to how much we're sleeping. Yeah. Because cognitively, I've even seen studies where it's like almost the same as being impaired, like legally impaired to drive, like alcohol wise. Like I've seen this, like it's the similarity between that. Like if you're sleep deprived to a point, that's the same effect.
I would agree 100%. And I know people that, are sleeping on, are set on like 1 to 4 hours of sleep a night. And yeah, you just know it's not doing a whole lot for them. So,
yeah. So we'll talk about the sleep stages here. I think it's a good point to get to that. And actually, I just found out something the other day when I was researching this. Your deep sleep is connected to your wake time, and they call it sleep pressure. So whenever you wake up, there's a clock running until when you would need to fall asleep to get your deep sleep in. So let's say you wake up at 5 a.m., and that would be your normal time, right? And you would need to be asleep 8 hours before 5 a.m. to get a good amount of your deep sleep, because that is your first cycle that you go into.
Huh.
So that's why it's called sleep pressure too, because if there's pressure for you to fall asleep at the same time, so you can get your deep sleep in, because that's the first majority of the first 4 hours of your night is deep sleep.
Wow.
So if you have a typical wake time, clock starts ticking for you to go back to sleep and get your deep sleep. So I just found that out.
Huh. That is, yeah. You know how many people are just totally deprivated in that? Wow. That's intense.
People talk about circadian rhythm. That's part of your circadian rhythm. That clock is going inside your body at all times. So different stages. Deep sleep is where we are getting most of our physical recovery. So we're secreting some hormones in our brain that are going into our body. So human growth hormone, HGH, if you've ever heard that before, that is getting secreted while you're in deep sleep. You have light sleep that you go through, so there's not a ton happening during that. There is still processing and going on, things like that going on. Then you have your REM cycles. So a typical cycle will be you fall asleep. It may start with a little bit of light sleep, and then you'll fall into deep sleep. So this is at the very beginning of the night. You fall into the deep sleep cycle. You'll come up through that deep sleep cycle, and this is where a point will you either go back to light sleep or you'll wake. And wake, if you've seen on your Whoop, you may see a wake time, but you won't actually know you're awake. Right. And then you'll fall back down into the cycle. So I think the cycle is usually like 45 minutes to an hour of you drop down, you come back up. And so again, I said the first half of your night is your deep sleep cycles. And so again, if you're typically falling asleep at 8 p.m., let's say, that would, and then you took a different day, 10 p.m., half of that, you're getting no deep sleep anymore.
Yeah. So like I say, you're saying if you went to bed at 8 and got up at 4, that's an 8-hour. But if you went to bed at 10 and got up at 4, it's 6 hours. You're already you're cutting off that half of that deep sleep. For you all listening, and for somebody that's been doing this fitness thing for a long time, I'm telling you, listen to what Corey's saying right now, because that's a major thing for your physical body to repair. Wow, that's so impressive.
And so you're still going to get some REM sleep in that first part of your night. It's not as much. And that's like the second half of your night is where you're getting more REM sleep. And so what's happening in REM sleep is we're doing emotional processing. We're doing memory recall. We're solidifying memories, and we're solidifying short term into long term. So that's what's happening during REM sleep. So that's coming in the second half of the night. And so that's where you have more of your vivid dreams. They call it REM because it's rapid eye movement. So it's your processing while you're sleeping. There's a lot more brain activity going on at that point. And so you're going through these different cycles. There's 45 minutes to an hour, somewhere around there. You're going through different cycles where you're going up and down through the stages of sleep. So there's a lot of very important processes happening during those times that it's so important to have that circadian rhythm, that same bedtime, same wake time, so you can get through all that.
I wonder as you're talking about it, I just wonder what the correlation would be on somebody that was diagnosed with dementia, Alzheimer's type stuff, and what that just offhand, like what the REM, like someone, how they live their life and what their REM cycles were like, just from that cognitive side. Being interesting. Yeah.
That would have to be a long-term one, I bet, like a 20-year study.
So talking about the REM cycle, and like I was saying earlier, I noticed, so for those that are listening, and I've been wearing a Whoop band for 5 years now, 5, 6, 7, I don't know, somewhere. I've been wearing it for a long time, but I don't know, just because I understand it a lot, and we get pretty in depth with that stuff. I when I wake up, I try and like have conversation within myself about like, okay, how am I feeling before I look at my Whoop? And I'm pretty close on like, I don't feel like cognitively great today. And then when I look, it's usually pretty spot on. So that, like my REM sleep wasn't great, or, whether I have an hour and 20 minutes, just what it didn't seem like enough.
Right. Yeah. So we'll go into the data a little bit on yourself. Like, what is your typical like length in REM, and what is your typical length in deep from what you're?
I'm typically getting, I would say my average is about 3 to 320 total between my REM and my deep sleep cycles. So probably about an hour and a half-ish on each is probably my average. According to Whoop, they're always saying try and get, I think it's 40 to 45% of your total night's sleep, whatever you're sleeping, should be total your REM and your deep sleep cycles. So I usually sit about 42%.
Yeah. And again, that's very, very tightly controlled by our bedtimes and our wake times and how consistent we are with those. Because if you're not consistent with it, your body is outside of its circadian rhythm, and it doesn't know how to adapt to that quickly.
I want you to repeat that one more time. So I want these listeners to really hone in on what you just said about sleep consistency.
Yeah. You have to be very consistent to get your 40% of your sleep from deep and REM. So you have to fall asleep at the same time or within 30 minutes, 40 minutes. I mean, it doesn't have to be to the minute, right? We don't have to get that crazy about it. And then trying to wake up around the same time. Because, again, when we wake up, the clock's ticking for you. So you want to get to bed 8 hours before you're going to wake up, right? And I know when I was wearing the Whoop band, I had a lot of what they call interruptions or wake cycles where I'm up. And still to this day, I have that. I notice I wake up, I'm up for whether that's 5 minutes, 10 minutes at a time. So if I truly was in bed for 8 hours, it'd probably be 7:15, 7.5 of that actually asleep. I'm up a lot during the night.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm usually in bed for, as it tracks you, like for 8 hours. But when I wake up, it's usually between 7:10 and 7:30 for actual sleep.
My biggest takeaway from Whoop was I need to actually be in bed longer.
Yes, I agree. And I was giving you the example of a client that, when I asked them, not every client wears a Whoop, but they'll, I'm like, yep, I went to bed at 10 I went to bed at 9 and I got up at 5. So they think they go like, yeah, I got 8 hours of sleep. And like, I try and talk to them like, yeah, you probably didn't get quite that, but trying to get them to understand like what you're talking about right now, the consistency and what you're actually getting as opposed to your time in bed.
So why don't we go into some strategies? Like, what have you changed in your sleep to get better with it and like to have more consistency? And what were the habits?
For those that are listening, if you want to read a good book or listen to a good book, there's a book called Boundaries. That's what really changed. So over COVID, I started to research and read a few books on sleep, which I can't remember. There's like the author's name was Sean something. It was a really good book on sleep, and I learned some of these protocols. But what you just described is consistency in sleep. So when you go to bed and when you wake up, I changed that big time. So it used to be, hey, I'll stay up for an extra 30 minutes or 45 minutes and watch TV with Jess and Ellie or whatnot, and then that changed. Like I have a big boundary now. When I'm going to bed, it's usually between 7. For everyone's going to be laughing, but for everyone, you're going to know when I get up and when I go to bed. So usually between 7:30 and 8 o'clock at night, I'm lying in bed, and I'm usually out between 8 and 8:15, because I'm getting up at anywhere from 3:45 to 4 a.m. every day. To be honest with you, it's pretty solid on the weekends. Like if I go to the movies or something, that's going to change. But I even try and get up pretty early, like 4 to 5 a.m. on weekends. So I try and stay consistent.
Well, that's a huge thing. Like, well, I know a lot of people that will have this consistent Monday through Friday routine, or I should say Sunday through Friday routine, and then Saturday morning and Sunday morning they sleep in because they're trying to catch up. What you can actually catch up a little bit on sleep, but it's also throwing you out of your rhythm.
Yes, right. That's why I try and keep it consistent as much as I can.
The better you can have that consistency 7 days a week, the better your body's getting into that deep cycle and that REM cycle. You're getting more of the sleep that's actually restoring you, making you feel like you have energy in the morning. Like that's probably been a huge impact in your life, right? More energy, more alertness.
Oh my word, yes. It's been a game changer. Again, so when I started wearing the Whoop, I try and stress, I mean, not that I take on a lot of new clients, but I have a good chunk of people that are wearing the Whoop band. I would say 2 to 3 of them have really learned a lot about their sleep and about their resting heart rate and the quality of sleep that they're getting, and understanding how that was not happening for a great number of years. It's been a great tool for sure.
Yeah, this data, if you have somebody you can interpret it with, can really inform some decisions that you can make. Like another thing is like stress while you sleep. Like if your heart rate isn't lowering much in your sleep, you know, there's something going on in your life that you probably need to address to help that physiological response do what it's supposed to do. Because our resting heart rates are supposed to drop significantly while we're sleeping.
Yeah, that's so it's not pumping away. It's still, yeah, it's working a lot. So like consistency, like you're saying, I think the whoop band has been a big key for me. Obviously, knowledge is power, but the power of it is the action steps. So some other things, you know, not staring at my phone, or taking the blue light out of it, whether you're choosing to wear blue blockers for that, so it's not messing with your ability to your melatonin to kick in. Some other things is I think supplementation can help, meaning some people do. I particularly do. It's called Peoria, is the supplement that we have, and magnesium. I think is a big one that I particularly take at night. Other things like ashwagandha. I always get the theanine. I always get that word mixed up, but L-theanine is another product that helps aid in getting quality sleep. So I would say those are some big factors for me. I mean, there's a lot of other factors in terms of your bedroom and, you know, darkness and cool. What's the temperature? So yeah, you can. Why don't you layer in a few of yours?
Huge. Yeah, the two you just touched on that last late there, especially as we're getting longer days now, more late at night. You want a dark room. You want a very dark room. It's hard to fall asleep when there's lights on and there's distractions and things like that. Anything that's grabbing your attention. Coolness. So the temperature of your room really matters as well, because within our day, and this is part of the circadian rhythm, your body peaks in temperature and drops in temperature. And that drop in temperature is part of the signal for us to get tired. So that's why they say have a colder room, like 65 or below is like the peak optimized temperature for you to fall asleep. So low light or no light, definitely no blue light. And typically they say like 30 minutes to an hour before you want to fall asleep, you want to get rid of that stuff. And you want to start to wind yourself down. I think the phone is the biggest issue for myself, but everybody else, is it's so engaging. You're wired into it. And you're not getting tired because you're focused on something. You are getting some dopamine from it. You're getting rewarded for going through it. So you're just engaged. You're locked in. And I think people just don't like being bored. You know, like having time to think, which a lot of people can't fall asleep because they have so many thoughts going through their head and they can't shut it off. And that's what I've heard people say. I can't shut it off, so I can't fall asleep. Which journaling could be a very good strategy.
To say journaling, probably do another thing that you do a lot of.
Meditation.
Read.
Yeah, reading is actually really powerful.
See, that's what I was going to say. I know you read a lot.
Really powerful. I'll be nodding off while I'm reading. Obviously, a actual book would be good, but I think e-readers are okay because a lot of them have good filters these days, where it's not just blue light screaming right in your face. Because I'll be on my Kindle and fall asleep, nodding off while I'm reading it. So that can be a powerful tool. I've heard somebody else talk about like a body scan. So it's almost meditation, but you're thinking about breathing deep and you're just kind of going from head to toe, trying to relax your body, trying to check in with how you're feeling with that. And I've one of the members downstairs told me that they won't even make it all the way down their whole body. They'll be out before they even get down.
Yeah. What is that term? I can't remember what the term is, where the timing on how long it takes you to fall asleep. Yeah, that's latency.
Yep, sleep latency.
Yeah. Yeah, mine's like 30 seconds.
I struggle with that. I also have a very bad habit of having my phone with me in bed. It's been hard to break. I've been thinking about breaking it for a very long time. But that's the way I've fallen asleep, is watching something or listening to something for so many years where I need to just break it.
Justine and Elliot are shocked. They can't even believe how fast I can fall asleep. But to me, it's, being on the floor, physically moving stuff all day long and nonstop communication. I'm both physically and cognitively I'm out.
Yeah. Yeah, so we talked about strategy there. So boundaries was one. Having a wearable and being aware of what the data is telling you and how to make actions based off of that data is a very good strategy for that. Trying to find a quiet, dark room that is a little cooler, 65 or less would be good. Journaling if you're racing through thoughts, meditation of some sort, or anything like that, body scan. I think reading is good strategy. Also, like an audiobook probably would be okay. Something where you're just not watching.
I just want to kind of circle back to, as we're finishing this up, and I was talking about supplementation, to make sure that people are not, that's not like the first step. It's a tool. It's not something that should be like, that's your end all be all. It's just another form to help. It's more about, why do we sleep? It's the recovery side that we're trying to, that's why we want to be like, it's like active recovery, because you got all these processes going on in your body. So that supplementation is another aspect to it. But again, it's just a tool.
Mm-hmm. I've actually had great results with CBD.
Yeah. Oh, that was another one I was going to say.
It just knocks me out. Like, I don't have as many wake cycles. Right? Like, I'm not as wake during the night when I take that. I should probably get some more. What about, before we end, why don't we go with things not to do to fall asleep?
Oh, definitely. Well, the first one that clicks into me, and I do taking caffeine, but like, I would, when should you actually, I'll ask you that. When should you shut down caffeine? Because I would say a majority of our listeners, or people in general, there's probably a high percentage that take in some caffeine at some point in their day.
So the half-life, so how long it takes to go through your system, is 6 hours. So I would say you want to be 8 to 10 hours before bed, because you want to cut that off.
I would say that's a big no-no. Like, drinking caffeine too late in the day, it's definitely going to affect you in your sleep.
You feel like I can fall asleep even.
I could do.
Which probably isn't a great sign, but
that's not a great sign for sure.
But we have that. One of them, I just go back to my college days, alcohol.
Oh gosh, this is a big one, folks. Listening, telling you, listen to Coach Corey right now.
It will make you fall asleep, yes, but it's going to impair your cycles of sleep. You're not going to get as much deep. You're not going to get as much REM, because your body's processing that poison, and it is poison. May be fun, but it is poison, and it's not allowing your body to get the rest, because it has to get rid of that while you're sleeping, so while you're trying to recover.
As Coach Corey's talking about this, you guys, and through the years that, watching people have wearables on this topic, your resting heart rate and alcohol, man, I've seen it can jump 15, 20 beats overnight. Your body's working so hard to process and get rid of that poison. I'm telling you, it's a game changer.
When I was wearing the Whoop, I've saw my heart rate in the 90s while sleeping.
It's like you're working out.
Not good. Really?
Yeah, it's not good.
Like, a healthy resting heart rate somewhere in the 60s. Yeah. Somewhere in the 60s. If you're an athlete, you could be in the 50s. If you're an elite athlete, you could be in the 40s, which is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'll see clients at 60, and then, and they're just having a couple of glasses of wine at an event, and they'll come in. I'll be like, "Hey, what's going on here?" And they're like, "I had a couple drink, couple." It's usually wine. Wine, for some reason, their resting heart rate will jump like 15 beats. They'll go from 60 or 50, high 50s, and they're in the low 70s. I'm like,
and do you remember the studies back in the day telling you to drink a glass of wine every night?
Yeah, it's a game. I don't believe that.
I used to see that all the time. Yeah. Hey, drink a glass of wine with dinner. It's very healthy for you.
It's unbelievable, the resting heart rate and how it increases. Your heart's just working.
I think if you did the glass of wine like maybe 5 hours before you sleep or 4 hours before you sleep.
Yeah.
Bring it through your system, and then you're actually able to get some deep sleep and REM sleep, maybe.
Another thing where you're asking like what things not to do, don't eat too close to bed. I think that's another massive one, processing food.
I would put I would put a asterisk on that. Is like higher fat, higher protein meals.
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
Because I've experienced this myself. I've had a higher fat, higher protein meal like right before bed, and I wake up hot, way overheated. So that's part of the process, right? We talked about how through your day, your body temperature is going to be dropping, and especially at night, it's going to be dropping significantly. And if you're processing that fat and that protein, your body temperature has to increase to process it, to digest it. So you're fighting that battle, and it's going to interrupt your sleep. I have had good success with maybe like a 20, 30 grams of protein and higher carbs. For whatever reason, your body just doesn't get as warm. Processing that is probably quicker, easier to digest, assimilate into the body. So I've had better success with that type of meal rather than a higher fat meal. I'm not having ribs before I go to bed.
Yummy.
Can you think of any other not to do's?
Oh, well, not to do's obviously. Yeah, I mean, you kind of already addressed them, like a lot of light in your room, temperature's too high. And I think we have our thermostat at 65 to 67 at night. Obviously, people want to be snuggled in super warm, but again, your body's trying to cool down to get into that quality sleep. How about you? You had any others?
Yeah, I thought of just like any mind or body altering substance you probably don't want to have before you sleep.
Yeah.
You may feel like it's helping you fall asleep, but it's really not helping you sleep better.
I'm learning from you right now. I don't know anything really about that, but yeah, I would agree. Anything altering, for sure.
Don't get in a fight right before you go to sleep.
Oh yeah, yeah. Emotional stress is definitely going to affect your sleep for sure.
If you're ruminating on something and you try to go to sleep, you're carrying that stress through the entire night.
Yeah, the wearables very much show that, because like there'll be even times for me, it'll be like a stressor within business or in life, and I went to bed on time, ate normal. I'm not like crushing my soul in terms of workouts, but I'll wake up and my HRV, my heart rate variability, will be way off, and my recovery's down. My sleep cycles weren't great, so and it's usually from emotional stress.
Yeah.
Yep.
How would you deal with that?
Well, how I deal with it is I have a particular routine every morning, and that's how I set my day. And I'm talking about boundaries. That's a boundary thing. Again, I'm getting up at 4 a.m. I'm usually taking like at my athletic greens one, AG1, I'm slamming that. I'm trying to flush my body with water or, like with greens. Take my dogs for a walk. When I get back, feed them. And then it's more of me time, meaning I'm doing devotional, listening to some ambient sounds, meditation, prayer. That really sets the tone for me. That's how I deal with a lot of emotional side to life. So
You're processing it. You have a dedicated time to work through that.
for sure, that helps. I mean, I do it every day. I do it 7 days a week. It doesn't change for me.
I have a similar morning routine.
Yeah, it just works for me. That's my process that works.
Instead of morning, maybe it's at night.
Yep, some people do it at night. Yep.
So if you had something go on in your day and you haven't had time to check in with yourself,
I think the journaling thing would be a very powerful thing for people to do at night. Yeah.
Well, there we go. Hopefully we got some nuggets from sleep.
Yeah. Well, I learned some stuff from you on this podcast. So hopefully that our listeners not only listen to this, but actually the knowledge is power, but power is action. So what's your action steps you're going to take to enhance your sleep?
I would say pick one or two things to work on. Don't try to do it all.
Don't try and do it all.
If your room's already full of light, maybe get some shades and blockers.
Start with one habit. Just let it snowball.
We'll see you guys next time.
All right. Thanks. You guys take care.